Good morning, Year 3. Welcome to Friday, the 19th of June. And welcome to our reading session, which now becomes a writing session. The ally for today is to write a character description. Now, through the whole week, you've been reading different paragraphs about superheroes like Spider-Man and Wonder Woman. So today it's your turn to start planning and then writing your own character description. So let's begin the lesson and start with ensuring you are ready to begin. So you should have a pencil or pen and paper. Use the pause button whenever you need to. So let's have a recap on conjunctions. Number 1, select one of the following options that is not a conjunction. You can use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. Right, number 1, even though. Number 2, yet. Number 3, since. Number 4, surprisingly. Number 5, although. Number 6, so. So select one of the following options that is not a conjunction. Number 2, my dad fixed my bike. I can ride it after lunch. Choose the correct conjunction to complete the sentence. Number 1, so. Number 2, but. Number 3, nor. Number 5, yet. It's a straightforward process. Put the word in the empty space. Does it sound right? And that's probably your best way of working out whether it's the correct conjunction. Number 3, which of the conjunctions would not complete the sentence correctly? Amy cheered loudly. Her favourite player scored a goal. So is it number 1, after, number 2, because, number 3, when, number 4, whether? Once again, if you read the sentence and put in each word, you'll probably have a good idea whether it is the correct conjunction or incorrect. Number 4, tick the sentence that is correctly punctuated. All the sentences are the same. They're punctuated differently. So select the sentence that is correctly punctuated. Number 5, which of the following options uses a conjunction correctly? Is it number 1? Is it number 2? Is it number 3? Or is it number 4? So which of the following options uses a conjunction correctly? So you need to read each sentence. Number 1 is, he has a gifted mind because it means he is one of the smartest heroes around. Or number 2, he has a gifted mind although it means he is one of the smartest heroes around. Number 3, he has a gifted mind, comma, but it means he is one of the smartest heroes around. Or number 4, he has a gifted mind which means he is one of the smartest heroes around. Okay, I'm going to count to 5 and we'll mark the conjunction quiz. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 1, select one of the following options that is not a conjunction. It should be number 4, surprisingly. Number 2, so is the correct answer, number 1. So my dad fixed my bike so I can ride it after lunch. Number 3, which of the conjunctions would not complete the sentence correctly? It is number 4. If you put each word in the sentence, you probably found it makes sense. If you put weather in the sentence, it doesn't make sense. Number 4, tick the sentence that is correctly punctuated. So did you choose number 2? She is trained in mastery hand-to-hand combat, comma, yet, so we have a conjunction, she prefers to avoid conflict and battles. And number 5, which of the following options uses a conjunction correctly? This is quite tricky, but the only one actually that makes sense out of all of these with the punctuation and such, or the choice of words, is number 4. He has a gifted mind, which means he is one of the smartest heroes around. Well, how did you do? 5 out of 5. Congratulations to those people who have mastered conjunctions. 4 out of 5, still very good. This is not an easy quiz, so well done if you got 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5. But there's always time to learn new knowledge and develop your understanding. So if you gained less than 4 or 5, it's never too late to improve where you're at. So constantly working on your knowledge and understanding and skills is an ongoing thing. Okay, here's our word of the day. In the text we find fascinating, and it's in the sentence, one of his most fascinating powers is the ability to travel back in time. Synonyms for fascinating: engrossing, captivating, interesting, enchanting. Synonyms are very important because when you're writing your stories, or just writing generally, up-leveling your vocabulary is very important. And trying to use different words which have a similar meaning in your writing is part of your writing development. So remember the synonyms, and also if you know the word captivating, then you should also understand the opposite to captivating can be boring, dull, uninteresting. So they do all go together. It's all part of developing your vocabulary or up-leveling your vocabulary. So sometimes we say try and select wow words in your writing. And finally, can we put that sentence in a different context? So let's put it in another sentence. I find learning about outer space fascinating. So there you go. So it was good to read those people who came up with their own word of the day. Yesterday, or was it the day before? And it was amazing the different words that people selected. And they didn't go for easy options either, which was a good thing. Let's move to the next step. Well, over the week, you've learned these words because they've been the word of the day. Compassionate, do you remember what it means? Can you put it in a sentence? Indestructible, which is going to be very useful if we're going to be writing about a superhero. Notorious, selflessly, and fascinating. These are all words that hopefully you'll be able to magpie and put into your writing today. So magpie is a very important part of your development, not just in year 3, but it happens in year 4, year 5, year 6, and all the way into secondary school. So remembering vocabulary, remembering specific words or phrases or parts of stories will always be important, because you can constantly or continue to use those ideas. You don't always have to be completely original. Being creative is quite exhausting sometimes, so you have to take some of the old things that you knew from before and continue to use them and improve them. Okay, so we've reached at the end of this week's topic. We are going to have another writing session next Friday. So your writing task is going to happen today. So you'll write a character description today. about your own superhero. And you need to decide on what mission they're going to be going on, what their superpowers will be, and who they're going to help. And also need to think about, do they have an enemy or evil nemesis that they defeat? But first you need to look at the text that we've been studying this week, because they are there to help you understand how to write character descriptions. So things to think about. What does a character description look like? We've looked at quite a few this week. What are the key features of a character description? We will go over those again, because it's like the poetic devices. People all learned how to use most of the poetic devices, like repetition, alliteration, onomatopoeia, similes and metaphors. They will always be useful in any kind of writing. And finally, as you develop your ability to write, you constantly continue to magpie ideas. So you can use ideas in one essay and employ them or use them in a different essay. Okay, so here are your key features. When you're writing, you need to think about adjectives in your writing and creating expanded nouns. Remember, you have a noun like Spider-Man, and then you would describe Spider-Man. Fronted adverbials, we've done a bit of work on that. Could be all of a sudden, in a flash. You just need to look at the fronted adverbials that we've studied so far. Adverbs, and we've really talked about those. Generally, words that end in ly, but not all adverbs end in ly. But think about quickly, slowly, cautiously. They're all useful adverbs that you could use in your writing. Apostrophe for possession. Well, how do we use those apostrophes to show something belongs to a particular person? And then conjunctions, which we've just done. Coordinating and subordinating. Part of this is you remembering those conjunctions. You don't necessarily have to remember it's a coordinating or subordinating, but you just need to know it's a conjunction for now. And then similes, everyone I know who has sent in work have almost mastered similes, really, so you don't have a problem with that. Commas in the list, you know about that. If you have different items, if you have 3 items, like blue costume, metal bracelets, and so after between costume and metal bracelets you need a comma, and then it'll be followed by and whatever the third item happens to be. So let's move on. So here's ideas for your superhero character description. So the question is, what is the name of your superhero and what is their mission? As well as that, you need to think about what costume does your superhero wear. So I've got some DC and Marvel characters on the slide, just to give you a visual memory of how these superheroes are dressed, what costumes they wear, who they are, and what kind of missions they may embark on. Let's move forward again. What special powers does your superhero have and why? Now, the main thing to remember here is they don't have to be superpowers like a DC character or superhero or Marvel superhero. It's completely up to you. It could be all to do with fun and humor. It doesn't have to be serious and be something like Superman is going to defeat his nemesis. It's purely up to you. You may create powers that make people laugh rather than make people think, wow, I wish I could have heat vision, stuff like that. And then superheroes may have a weakness and an enemy. Who is their enemy and what kind of weaknesses could they have? So once again, the enemy does not have to be someone really serious or such. Could be a fun character, someone that is there to just make people laugh. And the weaknesses are the same. So think about weaknesses and enemies. They don't all have to be, this does not have to be a serious piece of writing. It could be based around humour to make people laugh. Okay, so planning. So the best thing to do before you start is your planning. So we've got on the left hand side, what is the name of your superhero and what is their mission? So you jot down some ideas. This is not writing the story yet. You jot down some ideas for that part of the planning. And if you look at the story of Spider-Man on the right, it gives you some ideas about what the name is, because they do. Spider-Man is a compassionate, intelligent superhero, but not everybody knows he's the alias of Peter Parker. Once again, magpie ideas. You're not copying it exactly, but you could do something very similar. Your character may not be compassionate or intelligent, but they will have a different name and they will have an alias. Like, for instance, Superman has an alias name, which is Clark Kent. So you need to think of your superhero, what is their name, and what is their alias. Second question on the left, what costume does your superhero wear? Once again, up to you. Is your character going to be one of these sort of serious film, movie, comic characters, or is your character going to be based on just having a bit of fun? So it's up to you to decide what your character will wear. So some people will choose to do the serious route. It's what we call the traditional superhero character. Or you may decide, look, I'm going to make my character into a person that everyone likes to laugh about or encourages people to laugh. And your third piece of planning that you need to think about, what special powers does your superhero have and why? For instance, in this one here for the planning, flying to travel to classrooms across the country, high-speed marking to provide feedback to children, time travel to visit different periods in history and collect artifacts. So those are their special powers. And you can see on the page opposite, Spider-Man has superpowers. One of his key superpowers is his spider sense, because it warns him of impending enemies or danger. As quick as a flash, he can shoot sticky spider webs from his wrist. So you think, can I magpie some ideas? And it's called borrowing ideas. The main thing is you need to avoid just copying exactly what you've seen in the paragraph that you've read. So you need to have some creativity. You need to make up some of your own ideas. So sit down and think about it. Your next question that you would need to think about in your planning is, which weakness does your superhero have? Now, Spider-Man has a weakness, and that's really if he is given ethyl chloride pesticide. It could dull his reflexes, speed, and spider sense. So think about your character. What will their weakness be? And on the left-hand side here, for the superhero weaknesses, energy level drops if he doesn't have enough coffee, tea, or orange juice. It makes him grouchy and exhausted. Well, that's a bit of humour, isn't it? So it doesn't have to be serious. And the last question in your planning that you need to think about is, which enemy does your superhero have? And of course, in the Spider-Man paragraph, at the bottom, we have Spider-Man has also faced and defeated a number of enemies over the years, with one of his most notorious enemies being the Green Goblin. So think about your superhero's enemy or nemesis. Right, so that's the planning phase. Once you've done a bit of planning, it's time to start writing. So here you can see there's some writing here. So you had to think about what type of hero is he and what is his name. So the first sentence is, Super Mac is a friendly, comma, adventurous superhero, comma, but many people don't realize his real name is actually Mr. McNamara. So we've got commas in the list there, we've got the superhero name, and we've got the alias name, which fits what you need to do. So you can do something pretty straightforward like that. And then think about, what does he wear? Following in his father's footsteps, comma, he wears a smart, comma, navy suit and a yellow tie that has been passed down through generations. Every day he wears a red cape that helps him to fly as fast as lightning. Well, we've got there, if you look at the word fathers, we've got a possessive apostrophe because the footsteps belong to the father. And we've got a comma after footsteps and a comma after smart. Well, that's words in a list. So you use commas if you have words in a list. And at the end, what do they finish with? He wears a red cape that helps him to fly as fast as lightning. You're right, a simile. So using all of those features of a character description is important. And then below, think about what is his superhero job. As an experienced member of the League of Heroic Educators, comma, his ongoing mission is to entertain and educate children throughout the land. So we discover what this superhero, Super Mac, what his mission is. Think about your superhero's mission. Okay, so have a go at writing your superhero character description. The character could be based on yourself or be inspired by a family member, friend, or teacher. So this is purely up to you. It's your own creative imagination that will decide how to approach this piece of writing. So just a reminder, what's the name of your superhero and what is their mission? What costume does your superhero wear? What special powers does your superhero have and why? What weakness does your superhero have? And which enemy does your superhero have? So keep all of those in mind. You'll need to try and tick these off as you do your writing. Right, here it is time for you to put all your ideas into a paragraph to write a character description based on the superhero you've created. Now you may end up with 2, 3 or 4 paragraphs. It's completely up to you. Okay, so remember to include the features of a character description. And I've got there especially conjunctions, but look at the features on the right hand side. Just like poetic devices, when you wrote poetry, you thought about alliteration, repetition, onomatopoeia, similes and metaphor. For this writing task, you need to think about including adjectives and expanded noun phrases, fronted adverbials, adverbs, apostrophe for possession, conjunctions, similes and commas in the list. Try and include as many of those as you can. And below, just in case you need an example of, well, what's an expanded noun phrase? Have a look. Okay, have a look at the example. That'll refresh your memory. So you've got examples for fronted adverbials. So you've got, for instance, on her wrist, comma, which be the beginning of your sentence. Or to many people's surprise, comma. Or when supplies run low, comma. As a member of, comma. They are all fronted adverbials. So think about all of those features of a character description. Try and include as many of them as possible in your writing. So this is through your whole selection of writing. This doesn't have to appear just in one paragraph. So if you write 3 paragraphs, then they can appear, one of these features should appear in one of those paragraphs. Right, so now it's up to you to do your writing, and I look forward to reading your creative pieces of work. Don't forget, be a magpie. Think about all the things that you've learned this week and put them into practice. So have a enjoyable writing session and enjoy the rest of the day, and also have an enjoyable and restful weekend. I look forward to reading your, I'm going to call them narratives. Narratives are stories. So I look forward to reading your superhero narrative. Take care. Bye for now.